Unfortunately, you're right. There has been an emission, and it's closely been tied to sulfur dioxide. Sulfur dioxide is a greenhouse gas and a chemical that is usually emitted by industries. And so the likely source of this is industries in Mpumalanga. We are not 100% certain of the source of the emission as of yet, but the likelihood is that it is related to those industries that have clustered in that area.
And so obviously it's traveled all the way from Mpumalanga to Gauteng. What are the fastest means of air travel for the sulfur that's in the air already?
Well, it could possibly be linked to the southeasterly winds, if I understand correctly. And they've been obviously transporting this emission that has emanated from Mpumalanga and traveled with this smell all the way to Pretoria and Johannesburg, where many residents are experiencing the foul smell lately.
Apart from the really unpleasant smell and feeling a great level of discomfort by inhaling this smelly, stinky air, what are the other possible consequences of a sulfur inhalation?
Well, it's a very dangerous substance to be exposed to. A number of residents have already indicated that they're experiencing irritation to the eyes, nausea, and headache. And these are symptoms that are associated with sulfur dioxide pollution. In addition to this, you can experience coughing, wheezing, and a tightness of the chest, which is particularly alarming, seeing as though South Africans are currently battling with the COVID-19 pandemic. And this can't make it any easier for them to aid in their recovery when they're being exposed to such emissions.
And what are the repercussions of long-term exposure to sulfur, and what would classify as long-term exposure?
Well, the implications of being exposed to a substance such as this for a long period of time are devastating. They are neurological impacts that could occur. And we've seen instances of this already in the South Durban Basin, where they're constantly being exposed to emissions there, that some people have reported that children have developed neurological conditions. People are being exposed to, in Secunda area to be specific, prolonged exposure to these chemicals has resulted in people developing conditions such as asthma and bronchitis, and eventually even death. A report released by Greenpeace Africa actually indicated that these emissions are responsible for 3,300 deaths, premature deaths a year. These are related to diabetes, heart conditions. It simply exacerbates the existing conditions and results in people passing on long before they actually should be. You can actually view this report on Greenpeace Africa's website. If you visit it, it is the SO2 report, and we've gone into great detail there about the implications of this SO2 pollutant and how it really affects the health of people.
And how can South Africans protect themselves at this particular point, those who are being exposed to the sulfur?
Well, the best option right now for those vulnerable groups is to stay inside and wear a mask at any opportunity if you are exposed to this pollutant. I think what people also need to do is to really demand action from our Minister, Barbara Creecy, as to why she's allowed for the weakening of the minimum emission standards and exposing people to these pollutants, and ultimately creating a detriment to their health and their well-being. So if you would like to do this, please contact Greenpeace Africa, visit our website, visit our social media pages, and let your voice be heard against what is happening.
I'd like to understand from you why it is that this is the particular period that we're actually smelling the sulfur in the air. The industries in places like Mpumalanga have been around for decades. Why is it now that the residents of Gauteng are starting to smell the sulfur in the air?
Well, as you mentioned, they have been around for years, and a number of people are experiencing this on a daily basis. This is what the communities of Secunda, Kriel, and Mpumalanga have been complaining about for years and demanding action, but their complaints seem to fall on deaf ears when it comes to the Department of Environment. Unfortunately, these people are exposed to this on a consistent basis. These are the smells that they are smelling all the time. And this air pollution is present in the Gauteng region a lot of the time. Most of the time there is these pollutants in the air. However, we're not too alert about it. And even last year, the minister has pursued a case against Eskom for their continued breach of the minimum emission standards, the continued breach of the standards. So they continuously flout these laws, and they're only now taking action on them. But as for why we are only starting to really perceive or really see the impacts of this in the way that it has with the smell, that is to be determined. It is uncertain whether there is an emission that has taken place, an environmental incident. As to our knowledge, this has not yet been reported, and it's unclear whether this is still currently taking place right now. So that would still stand to be seen, but as we are aware, this is a constant issue that is plaguing communities across South Africa.
We've been focusing a lot on government and what they ought to be doing now, but how can these companies actually be held to account?
Well, the first step would be that the culprits for this emission need to make this known. They need to report the incident and claim responsibility for this incident, as well as the fact that they need to change their business model. This reliance on a coal business model is not beneficial to South Africans at all. South Africans' lives are being put at cost, and they're losing productive work days. They're losing their well-being and their livelihoods as a result of the illnesses incurred. So these companies really need to make a concerted effort to change their business model and move to a more green business model that emphasizes renewable energy and allows for South Africans to really enjoy their right to a safe and healthy environment.
And it certainly is a right that ought to be enjoyed and preserved. Thank you so much for your time